What's the adequate and independent state grounds doctrine?
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
You're welcome.
In my practice, I actually haven't had an opportunity to use that principle or doctrine, but my general understanding is that it speaks to the fact that if a federal court is able to resolve an issue based on state law grounds, then that is what should lead in terms of the court's ultimate decision.
Okay. What is the selective incorporation doctrine?
That also, in the voting rights or civil rights context, is a term that I haven't had to come across. But what I do know is that as a legal research and writer, and for sure confronting possibly new areas of law, I look very forward to doing my due diligence in terms of making sure I'm familiar with doctrines such as that one.
Do you know what it is?
So no, I'm not familiar with it sitting here
Selective
today.
incorporation doctrine? Okay. Well, you're going to see a lot of it if you're confirmed on the 11th Circuit. Can Congress pass any law that the Constitution doesn't prohibit?
Based on the frame of your question, I would say yes, that sounds right.
So you think Congress has plenary power?
Well, I would first look to what the Supreme Court has said in terms of following precedent.
No, but I'm interested, if I could, Counselor, in your opinion, does the United States Congress have delegated powers or plenary power?
Well, the Congress has both, I would say, from my general understanding. Again, it depends on the context and the issue, but it is.
Can you explain the difference to me between strict scrutiny and intermediate scrutiny?
Senator, strict scrutiny is the highest level of scrutiny that's often applied in constitutional cases.
What's the definition? I'm sorry, go ahead. Excuse me.
So it requires that a state, when enacting a law or regulation, have a compelling governmental interest for doing so, and that the law is narrowly tailored to achieve that interest.
Okay.
And then intermediate, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so intermediate speaks to the issue of having a substantial interest or an important governmental interest that is substantially related.
Okay. Do you believe that the meaning of the Constitution is immutable, or does it change over time?
Senator, I would say that the Supreme Court in some cases has analyzed that issue, and the response really does depend on the context and the issue. But what the court does or has done in its approach, of course, is look to the plain meaning of a statute or of the Constitution, because that really is where the inquiry should start. And if the language is plain, then that is where the inquiry can end.
Okay, thank you for that. You were involved in a 2021 report from the Southern Poverty Law Center about voting in Louisiana. Did you say, quote, racist white Southerners, close quote, and, quote, hostile white voters and governmental officials in Louisiana continue to make local polling places and early voting locations threatening spaces for black voters? Did you say that?
Senator, I do not believe that I said that. I haven't read that publication in some time.
Will you help write it?
I helped to draft the publication and approved it, but I'm not familiar with that language.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Today's Senate Judiciary Committee hearing featured a tense and revealing exchange between Senator John Kennedy and Nancy Abudu, the Biden administration's nominee for the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Kennedy's questioning ranged from fundamental constitutional doctrines to Abudu's past work with the Southern Poverty Law Center, where controversial language about racist white Southerners and voter ID laws sparked heated debate. Kennedy opened with rapid-fire questions on basic constitutional principles. He asked Abudu about the adequate and independent state grounds doctrine, then pressed her on the selective incorporation doctrine, a concept she admitted unfamiliarity with. The senator challenged her understanding of Congress's powers, questioning whether she saw them as delegated or plenary. This line of questioning seemed designed to test Abudu's command of constitutional fundamentals and preview how she might rule from the bench. Kennedy then pivoted to constitutional standards of review, strict scrutiny, requiring a compelling governmental interest and narrowly tailored law, intermediate scrutiny, tied to substantial government interests. Abudu laid out her understanding, though Kennedy appeared skeptical of her readiness for appellate-level cases where these doctrines play a central role. The senator raised one of the most enduring legal debates. Is the Constitution immutable, or does it evolve with time? Abudu replied cautiously, noting that the Supreme Court often begins with the plain meaning of the text, while acknowledging that context shapes interpretation. Kennedy pressed but received careful non-committal answers. The questioning then took a sharper turn. Kennedy cited a 2021 Southern Poverty Law Center report in which Abudu was involved that allegedly described racist white Southerners and hostile white voters in Louisiana. Abudu distanced herself from the language, saying she helped draft and approve the report but was not familiar with the exact wording.
Approved it, but I'm not familiar with that language.
Okay. In that same report, did you say, well, tell me where in Louisiana local polling places and early voting locations are threatening African American voters? You said it, so which polling places?
So again, Senator, obviously I don't have that report in front of me to be able to read and remind myself of the examples that might have been shared. But what I can say is that Louisiana...
Let me cut you off because I'm going to run out of time, Counselor. Let me ask you one more. In August 2021, we're not talking 20 years ago, we're talking 2021, you were involved in another report by the SPLC. And you said that voter identification, photo ID to vote, is burdensome and does not serve any legitimate state interest. Do you really believe that?
Senator, identification for voting is
yes,
something...
but first, do you really believe that? You said it. You meant it?
The Supreme Court in Crawford v. Marion County has already upheld voter ID laws as per se
Yeah, but you said it didn't serve any legitimate state interest. Do you believe that?
Again, Senator, without that language in front of me, it's hard to understand the
You
context.
said it. Here it is, August 2021.
Well, there are cases...
I'm just asking you to explain to me why having to prove you are who you say you are before you vote doesn't serve, you said it doesn't serve any legitimate state interest. I'm just asking you to explain that statement to me.
I understand, Senator Kennedy, and again, without being able to see the language that appears before and after, it's hard for the context.
You deny that you said it?
I can't say that I haven't seen that language in front of me, but what I do know is that there have been voter ID cases in which courts have found that
I'm familiar with the case law, but I'm asking what you think, because you may be on the 11th Circuit. Do you believe that voter ID is inappropriate?
My commitment is to uphold the Supreme Court's decision in Crawford v. Marion County.
I know, but here you said it was inappropriate. You deny that?
Well, again, Senator, it would be helpful to know if that section of the report also cites to cases in which federal courts have found that certain voter ID laws do pose an burden on voters.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Booker?
I'm going to yield to Senator Whitehouse, who's...
The political stakes of judicial confirmations. Nancy Abudu's past writings, legal knowledge, and approach to voting rights will continue to be scrutinized as the Senate weighs her nomination to one of the nation's most influential appellate courts. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscriber button for more Political Showdown.